This is a personalized demo for your team based on the three examples you gave: controversy capital, expensive capital, and ABC capital. We'll go through each one by one. I have already entered the information, but I will show you what it will look like. And then later on, I will also show you how you can add it or how it would look if you were actually adding the engagement. Let's start with the first one you had, which was ABC capital. So you would already have kind of the issue that is described, which is, I'm just going to move the screen here. ABC Capital has historically been reluctant to reveal holdings about firearms. There is no description of how ESG or climate is integrated. For this particular issue, you've had 5 interactions with ABC Capital. And you can see it was in March 2021, October 2021, August, and September. For each interaction, you can see the contacts who's attended and joined, and from ABC Capital as well. You can also see your meeting notes, the next steps and outcomes here. Any questions so far? I will show you as we go, but I wanted to take it slowly. We have some time.
One question I had, this was my example. I realized when you look at the description, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
I'm pulling in a lot of information about transparency, about ESG incorporation, about reporting on metrics. And I'm wondering if that is too big. When we have these meetings, we're addressing a lot of issues at the same time. Would it have been better to separate those issues? And do you allow for drop downs? So like instead, I could have done a drop down for ESG metrics or a drop down for ESG integration and been more specific to that, because I realized this was a hard one from my perspective in that it encompasses a lot of different things.
Let me show you a little bit more. So obviously, I don't think we need this here because it's already there in the top. I'm going to just save the updates here. Here we go. So these are the notes from your engagement. How we would recommend. Sometimes you will have one interaction and you'll have multiple points you will discuss, but it will link with various things you are tracking in the background. That's why we've created these 2 zones. If I go to ABC, you'll see there is one issue at the moment. You can create multiple issues you want to address with ABC Capital. You could have one meeting and capture it all in one note and then link it with various issues that you have.
I wonder if it's better from your system's perspective in terms of tracking to have them all separated as different issues, because a year from now, when we go back and say, how many governance issues did we address? How many fee issues did we address? How many times did we discuss ESG integration? That these would be separated, or would this wind up being tagged for all of those issues?
So I think in the end, it's about how you might use this for reporting. When you are adding it up in the end, what you don't want is anything too complex. If you're tracking, let's say, systematically nature separately, and you're tracking biodiversity or climate change separate and governance fees separate, then we would recommend you have those. And for that, we have something called group issues, which means you have a broad overarching Cambridge Associates. We want to engage on climate with all funds. And you would then track their individual responses separately. But if it is your general engagement, you do once a year and you cover a broad bunch of topics, and they're not necessarily part of something you want to systematically report over a period of time, you can just bundle it as one. The beauty is you can still add multiple topics to this. You can say, okay, we also want to engage on biodiversity and so forth. Then you would just add those topics. So you would never lose any topic that you have engaged on, and it would show up.
In the issue topics for this particular bundled approach, and I'd say that a lot of our interactions are bundled, we could just tag different ones and then they would get tracked in the future. Okay.
And when you're reporting and you just want to report on climate, you could just filter out climate and it would show.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Welcome, Anna Chiara. We are really into our very first example. You haven't missed much. So we were starting with the first example, which was ABC Capital, a very broad engagement about multiple issues. All your engagements, all your meetings tagged here, along with who has attended, all your notes and your next steps. I will come out of here and show you another one. Let's go to expensive capital management. So here, this is a interaction for addressing sort of their management fees. When we go to these linked meetings, you can see you've had meetings in March, April, and June last year. If you go to one, you can see who has attended, your meeting notes, and your next steps. At the end, this engagement, as per the example, has closed. So you can also look at the outcome. The outcome is that you've successfully negotiated the reduced fee and this engagement is now closed. If something's changed, you can always reopen it and continue the engagement. Otherwise, it will show up in your system as a closed engagement. The other feature we have is a timeline feature. This is a detailed audit log of who entered in the system on what date and time. If there are multiple team members involved over a period of time, you have a full audit log as well.
I have a quick question. Would all the engagements be available to everyone at our firm? So would it just be like publicly across the firm, all the different engagements?
So that's a good question. We have what we called users, and then you can also set permissions. So you can set whether you want someone to just view or not have access, or if you want them to view only certain funds or certain levels, you can set permissions for different team members.
Would the default though be for everybody? I guess I'm just curious if there was a firm level issue that we wanted.
Yeah, you would be able to do that as well.
Thanks so much for the demo. Going back to the sample engagements, I know that we didn't quite send this over, but I was curious, how easy is it to add different components to the reporting template? I know that we don't add a million things for colleagues to have to click on, but we've been talking about some other things that could be easy to add that would make it easier for us to search, document, and report. So things like, what's the anticipated timeline for the engagement? Is this a short, medium, long term? What's the type of engagement? Is this linked to an engagement priority identified through our sustainability framework? And then just multi-selects for outcome or next steps, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so let me come here, controversy, and let me just reopen this issue for a moment, and then I can show you. What would happen is when you are actually even better might be I just create an engagement and I can show you all the fields, labels. If there is anything that you want to find for easy search, this is part of our sustainability policy related engagements. You would simply add policy as a label. And that means every time you search policy, you'll be able to find all your policy related engagements in one place. You can select what kind of topic this is. That is it an ESG issue? Is it a controversy your team has picked up? If it was anything else as well. So if you can add multiple layers, choose if any particular team was involved. It's easier for finding by different characteristics. You can also select severity. So if something is really important, high priority versus something longer term and not as important. And then I think we already discussed topics, reference URLs and notes that you can add. If there are any other fields that are not here that you would like, our team can add as well. Once you have added something, you can update. So you can say if the response was good or not. This is more for your internal tracking. You can customize these milestones. Say you've raised an issue or whether it's complete or somewhere in the middle. If you have agreed actions, you can add them with a timeline. If something is multi-year, you can create multi-year agreed actions and track it year on year. And I'll show you in a moment how this would all show up. When you are doing your everyday activities, you can see all the suggested follow-ups for the year here. So basically anything that you've agreed later on in the year, you'll be able to see. But if you were just wanting to track what's going on this month, you can see that. And you'd have a calendar here as well, which would show you things you need to be on top of. You can see your meetings, or if the other side has committed to something and you want to keep track of that. Does that answer your question, Marianne?
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. Great to know that those fields would be customizable. And I suppose if there's the opportunity to add more like multi-select questions, that would be part of the standard template. That's helpful. While also a lot of tagging is easy just to add on the go. So good to know.
Let me come back to this one and mark it as closed.
On the expensive capital, going back to that one of the things we'd like to be able to track is over the last year, how much did we save clients in fees? Right? In this particular instance, I put in 20% reduction. That isn't a quantitative number, right? It doesn't tell you the numbers. If I put in something numerical, new fees are 15 basis points and originally were 20 basis points, so savings of 5 basis points. Could we then pull those numbers and actually calculate?
At this stage, no, because tracking the actual allocation. If we were adding that data on the allocation side, for example, client data or holdings and which particular fund, then yes, you will be able to calculate the savings. And you'd be able to create multiple exposure analysis as well, like this particular client has 70% exposure to or is highly invested in Apple across multiple funds that they have and so forth. So those are the kind of analytics you will have, but then also you could have fund related or quantitative outcomes as well.
Thank you.
I'm going to come to expensive capital. We've gone through each of them now. I wanted to show you how you would add the actual interaction. I'm just creating a new one, hypothetically. I've used the same example as expensive capital. You have the issue already here. Let's say you had a meeting scheduled today and you've just completed the meeting. Here we go. If we go here, holdings, and then let's say you had the meeting today, you would add the interaction and go to the section where you can schedule your next meeting. But here you would simply add your notes. So let's say you're typing and then you've added your notes here. And then let's say you've agreed certain next actions. You can also add them very quickly here as well. And then you can just add this interaction. Here we are.
And just to confirm, we would be able to also add required or suggested multi-select pieces for tagging.
If you standard things that use standard tagging all the time, we would recommend that we add them as drop-down fields. If you wanted to upload underlying research docs, you could have all data in one place and add this interaction to the system.
Another question, I noticed on the earlier page that was for company to company level engagement, there was a field that included APIs that pulls data feed from somewhere else.
Yeah, it's actually pulling from the SBTI. If we go to a particular company, if that company has an SBTI target, it will show up here already, the sources from SBTI. We have an integration with Sustainalytics, and we have a specific integration at the moment based on our client request to integrate their engagement data. So if Sustainalytics have engaged with Starbucks and our clients are licensed to this, they can see the Sustainalytics engagement directly here. So if you have, for example, any data licenses for research purposes, we have the capability on our side to pull that data and have it visible alongside the holding data.
Great. And would it be possible to, because we do have some of those subscriptions, would it be possible to pull it on, say, a fund basis, not just like an equity basis? So then you'd see just, okay, fund X has got 45 holdings. You can see that. It might be a bit unwieldy, but helpful to know.
Yes, possible to do that. On our side, we are looking for the best providers. If we can find the underlying holding data and already have it uploaded, then there'll be a small fee to have the data pre-embedded and it would be live based on holdings change. That's something we haven't launched yet. If that's something you would like, we can also explore. Let me come to the reporting part, which I think is where it all comes together.
Can you go back to the previous screen? I was just looking on the right-hand side about the entity here, and I was looking over the complete, might have had this conversation when I arrived late. Ultimately, our interactions are going to be the vast majority of them with investment managers rather than in companies. Occasionally, we might have multiple investment managers interacting with the same company. I just wanted to ask whether the entity in your framework can be sometime a company and sometime an investment manager. It doesn't matter. It's indifferent to you.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
The database is broad. It's like the investment house, BlackRock. It can be the investment fund, so BlackRock Opportunities Fund. It can be an entity within the fund as well.
So entity can be whoever you interact with.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And the investment funds here, we're going to relabel this. This is more like a custom zone. So if you want to, for example, look at all your fixed income related products across all the funds, or if you had a particular client that had multiple funds, you can generate client-based reports as well.
I think this goes back to Ellie's question. We might have researchers who interact with investment managers putting in engagements based on their coverage list, but we need to have client teams which cover a specific client be able to say on behalf of foundation so-and-so, family XYZ, where do clients get put in? I'm just looking on the left-hand side, I can't see where that.
So at the moment, it's here in this investment fund category. So you would have a client, and then you would be able to add, for example, let's say client XYZ has a certain position in ABC Capital. You could do that. Let's say within ABC Capital, there was a particular fund one, then you'd be able to add that fund one. When you're generating your reports, you'll be able to see it at the level of the fund or the investment house.
Just to be clear, I'm not sure I understand. Could we group the engagements that have been done with individual investment managers or on individual companies? How would we be able to group them on behalf of this client?
Yeah. So you would be able to, let's say, for example, you just want to look at all your engagements with ABC Capital. Then you would go here and you would say, I want to look at all my engagements from March 2021 to date. I can select that. And then you'll be able to see everything that you have here.
ABC is a client of Cambridge Associates. Am I misunderstanding?
I think ABC was a manager in this case.
Yeah, they're a manager.
Let me rephrase. We work with numerous investment managers and about 1,000 clients.
Yeah.
We will engage with investment managers. Clients ask us to engage on their behalf with certain investment managers.
Yeah.
How can I see all of the engagement that we have done on behalf of Belgian client, which I would imagine would be with multiple investment managers and companies? How would we do that?
Yeah, you would simply select the client and see all engagements on behalf of this client.
Okay.
Across a custom time range.
So maybe I don't know how to set up clients, but it is possible to set up different clients.
You would be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And you would be able to filter. So you'll be able to, for example, if I go to issues, I will be able to create specific reports. I can say I want to see all engagements just on environment for my client XYZ. It will generate the report for you. So it will show you just climate related engagements for that client. How many are open, how many are closed, how many are priority, what regions, and by ESG, what SDGs, and the specific engagements as well. With the fund and also with the underlying entity if you've engaged with a portfolio company for that particular client. Yeah, thank you. And then you would have also like a Cambridge Associates. So all your engagements across all your funds, all your entities as well. So you can see across multi-year time frame. So you'll be able to see. And here, obviously, I'm showing you just the three ones: controversy capital, ABC, and expensive capital here. So if you had hundreds more, You'd be able to see the ones you've engaged with most, or the top 5 topics you have engaged, what sectors, and who you've spoken with in what form, whether it was email, online meetings. And then you'll also be able to see by E, S, and G, and all your SDGs. Of course. We go ahead with the partnership, we would spend more time with your team to customize the reporting areas. Anything that you think is not relevant for you, we'd probably just mark it off. And anything that's relevant for you that isn't there yet, we would make sure that it's ready and live before onboarding. That's part of our process. And I think, Marianne, that's where we would have the discussion around the drop downs, the common things, so that some things are preset. Overall, the system is quite customizable. We've enabled it so that teams are not hung, their workflow doesn't stop because something isn't available. They can just add things by themselves.
Thank you. It's helpful to see that.
Any other questions? Anything else on the report or on the platform that you'd like to see? I also wanted to highlight we have an integration with Outlook, email, and calendar. If booked on your Outlook calendar, you could tick the box and that meeting would reflect on the engagement tracker. If you set up a meeting in the engagement tracker and scheduled it, it would synchronize with your Outlook calendar as well.
Oh, that's great. When you were running through the example, I was just thinking there's a lot more we'd have to manually add in terms of calendars and that kind of thing. Any kind of Outlook integration. One thing that we do have with another tool that is Salesforce linked is that you are able to click, okay, this will also send a copy to the Salesforce instance. Sounds like that's the case here?
Yeah, exactly. On Outlook, you would have a Salesforce tick box that you are generally ticking. And then you would also have a Maanch engagement tracker box that you tick. So it would create 2 copies, one in Salesforce and one in Maanch. And the same with emails as well. So you can push emails. When you send your email, you have the opportunity to tag that to the engagement tracker. And then it will identify the company and tag it, as well as the contacts. So if the contacts are pre-embedded, you will be able to see your linked emails with those specific contacts. We are going to enable broadcasting emails from Maanch as well. So if you wanted to send directly from the engagement tracker, that will be available later this year. One more thing we are very excited about, we haven't released just yet, but our timeline is the end of March, is AI-generated case summaries. If the expensive capital engagement was finished, you would be able to generate an AI-generated case study or a summary. It would automatically structure the content by the description, the agreed actions over time, and the outcome. We've had some successes. We're just finessing how it will look on the system, and then it's ready to go live end of the month. Deborah, Christy, if you were adding the outcome as, let's say this resulted in saving X amount of fees for our clients, it would be summarized in the outcome and so forth. Anything else you would like to see in the platform? Thank you, everyone. It will be helpful for us to get a sense for your overall experience and next steps.
I don't know whether Quinn's talked about that. We have to go up the chain, and I don't know whether that would mean another demonstration for leadership or not. They will come back with some questions that we'd have to have you answer. Can never tell unless Quinn has a better idea.
I think we can summarize what we anticipate they'll ask, summarize our proposal, as well as anticipate questions that they'll ask, and then move from there with a recommendation to subscribe and continue this partnership. Now, one question that they will ask is, and Darshita, I think we mentioned this before, and Sarah, there's always the challenge of user adoption when we have to use yet another system. You had mentioned that there's integration capabilities like API. Is that something you have done for other firms where you integrate capabilities with another enterprise operations colleague into our systems?
Yes, so we can work in ensuring that this system is interoperable with your other systems. Our aim would be to minimize duplication of effort for your teams. Yes, so we will be able to integrate with other systems. And I think the most important one is Outlook, which is email and calendar, where most of the engagements happen. That one is ready to go live and it doesn't cost anything extra. Teams can start tracking without any additional effort. If there's anything further needed, our technical team can work with your technical team to make sure it's joined up with your other licenses.
Okay. And that latter integration effort, we would price it then depending on the complexity?
It would be more if a certain provider doesn't have an API. If you have an API, we can ingest it, and it's not a big cost at all.
Usually when we get close to the final stages, we have somebody who is fluent in software technology enterprise capabilities join us in a demo, and they would ask specific questions. I think we can strive for hopefully no more than one more meeting where that person joins us. Brooks Carr has been helping our team for a while. So somebody like Brooks or one of his colleagues, and that conversation will help us make a stronger case with anticipated questions asked by our budget committee approval team. If it's okay with you, we do that. We're going to write a proposal to move forward, and any remaining questions that come up, we'll go back and forth a little bit with you on email, and then maybe meet with Brooks or someone on his team so that final question of integration is answered. That is the biggest concern usually in the execution stage, not the capabilities. Your software looks terrific, but will people use it? Because it's yet another separate application. We're very happy that you're experts in the API and software development field, because that is something that will help us a lot in making the case.
Thank you. I think on our side, we'll have our CTO join the call as well. Her name is Preeti. And I think then it will be a smoother conversation. When you're preparing your recommendation, the other point might be that we are flexible with our pricing. We are open to having a pay as you use. You could start with the partnership, and if over time there was an adoption, there wouldn't be a big cost. There's no risk really.
What we're hoping for, and we're biased, we're hoping for wide adoption.
We want to make sure this adds value. Like Deborah said, being able to share the success of an engagement in quantitative and story terms. A tool like this can centralize that story, show the value you add, but also add confidence to the statements you make because it's backed by real engagements and real information.
The other question is privacy. We need to protect what we say about managers. Would your system have those privacy protections in place?
100% privacy, and all your data is your data. Even we don't get access to it. It's set up on a private server, so it's not shared with any other organization. And you can choose the location where you would like it to be hosted.
We'll get back definitely this month. I'm trying to write the proposals for funding this month. We will come back with any remaining questions and potentially one more meeting with our technology team members.
Perfect. Thank you, Gwen.
Ellie, did you have anything, Ellie? Any last questions? Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Darshita.
Thank you.
It was great to see you again. Bye.